Welcome to Sleep Surge. This is part 2, Build a Rock Solid Sleep Schedule. Session 8, How to Fall Asleep Sooner. Falling asleep at what would be considered a normal time is very hard for people with insomnia. You might not be able to fall asleep until hours after you go to bed. It can be a real problem on days where you need to get out of bed early. On some days, you may only be able to get a few hours sleep. The solution is to shift back your sleep schedule so you fall asleep sooner. This will allow you to sleep for longer so you wake up feeling refreshed. Shifting back your sleep schedule is notoriously difficult. You know it's not just a matter of going to bed earlier. If you went to bed earlier, you would just spend longer in bed lying awake. Waking up earlier isn't as easy as it sounds either. If you try and wake up earlier, you know you'll probably just oversleep the next morning to make up for it. We're going to approach it from a different angle. Today I'll share with you a simple 3-step process to shift your sleep schedule. It'll shift your sleep schedule back slowly and steadily, and then keep it in place to create lasting change. You can use this same process to shift your sleep schedule forward, just do it in reverse, or getting your sleep schedule quickly back on track after a few bad nights' sleep. Before you begin shifting, you first need to find your ideal sleep and wake times. To do this, follow these 3 steps. 1. Work out how much sleep you need. Adults generally need around 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Some people function best on 8 hours of sleep. If you're currently sleeping less than 7, try aiming for 7 to begin with, but if you're a teenager, you'll need around about 9 hours of sleep. Number 2. Decide what time you would like to wake up. I would recommend having at least an hour in between the time you get up and the time you actually need to be out of the door in the morning. Relaxing wake-up routines are far easier to stick to than stressful ones. Number 3. Calculate what time you need to be in bed. Do this by taking away your required hours of sleep from your wake time. So if you want to wake up at 7 a.m. and you need 8 hours of sleep, your bedtime will be 11 p.m. You should have at least a free hour at the end of the day to relax and wind down before bed. You'll probably need to go between step 2 and 3 to find times you're happy with. Just make sure that you can stick to these times every day, including weekends, and make sure they allow for your work and social commitments throughout the week. Lately, it's become fashionable to wake up early. Waking up at 4 a.m. is considered to be extra productive. But doing so would require you to fall asleep at 8 p.m. to still get your recommended hours of sleep. So in terms of productivity, it doesn't really matter when you go to sleep if you're still sleeping the same amount of hours as everyone else. Some people are natural night owls. They feel best going to bed later in the night and waking up later in the morning. Going to bed any earlier feels unnatural to night owls, so choose a set of sleep and wake times that feels natural to you. Once you've become confident that you've found your ideal sleep and wake times, now it's time to make it a reality. The 3-step process for shifting your sleep schedule is to stop, to gradually shift, and then to stay there. We'll look at each of these in turn. The first is to stop. If you go to bed and wake up at different times each day, the first thing to do is to stop your sleep schedule from shifting any further. Get up at the same time for at least a week and don't go to bed any earlier than you would normally. You'll probably feel sleepy in the morning to begin with, but this extra sleepiness will help you fall asleep easier and help make your sleep schedule more consistent. Make sure you avoid bright light in the evening, especially just before bed. Your meal times can also act as a Zeitgeber to your body clock, so try and eat your meals at roughly the same time each day. Once you're falling asleep and waking up at the same times each day, then move on to the next step. The second step is to gradually shift. So now you've stopped your sleep schedule from advancing, and it's relatively stable, now it's time to gradually start shifting it back. Each day, shift your current wake time by no more than 15 minutes towards your ideal wake time. Only shifting by 15 minutes gives your body clock time to adjust to the new times. it's a good idea to write down your target wake times each day in 15-minute increments until you reach your goal. Write down your actual wake-up time as soon as you get out of bed so you can mark your progress. You can shift your bedtime by 15 minutes too, but remember not to go to bed unless you're feeling sleepy. To shift your circadian rhythm to fall asleep sooner, get as much exposure to sunlight in the morning as possible. The earlier, the better. Getting in some exercise as well in the early evening will also help. The final step is to stay there. Once you've finally reached your ideal wake time, now you have to stick to it. Don't allow your wake time to drift an inch. You're still in the danger zone here. Your sleep schedule can still snap back to how it was before. Keep monitoring your wake time for at least a week. Ensure you don't get any extra exposure to light in the evening. Avoid heavy exercise before bed, and keep to the same meal times. As your sleep schedule settles into place, very gradually, you'll find yourself able to fall asleep sooner each night. If you can stick to these new sleep and wake times for a week, then congratulations, you now have a rock-solid sleep schedule. You can now sleep in on the weekends and stay up late some nights, and your sleep schedule will still stick. But do keep an eye on it. If you find yourself having difficulty falling asleep at night, feeling sleepy in the morning, or if you start oversleeping, then go back to step 1 and repeat this process. Catching it sooner rather than later will make your job of putting it right much easier. So what happens when most people try and shift their sleep schedule? They keep up their overly ambitious wake times for a few days, but then they become sleepier and sleepier. Before long, they end up oversleeping and they're back to square one. This happens because while you're waking up earlier, you're not necessarily going to sleep earlier, at least not for the first few days. Because you're not getting enough sleep, your homeostatic pressure doesn't have enough time to fully release. Homeostatic pressure builds and builds until eventually it becomes so great that you oversleep. This is exactly why you should only shift by 15 minutes per day. It might seem long and tedious, but doing so helps avoid the buildup of too much homeostatic pressure. But even when shifting by just 15 minutes each day, you're still at risk from oversleeping. If you do oversleep, then don't panic. Just don't advance your sleep schedule by 15 minutes that day. Try and wake up the right time next morning. The changes you've made to your circadian rhythm means that you won't have to start all over again right from the beginning if you just oversleep for once. So if you oversleep, it's not the end of the world. You might even find it easier to wake up the next morning now that you've released all that homeostatic pressure. Most people just give up and stop when they first oversleep. Let it motivate you instead. You can quickly get it back on track if you don't let it happen again the next morning. So in conclusion, here's some final tips to conclude session 8 when you're shifting back a sleep schedule. Avoid stimulants such as coffee and sugar, strong light from TVs and smartphones at least 30 minutes before bed, and eating too much before bed. Encourage exercise early evening, getting out in the sun during the day, and sticking to regular meal times. Be consistent, and before long, you'll achieve your ideal sleep schedule. Obviously, this is going to take some time. Take it slow and steady. Work on shifting your sleep schedule back a little bit each day as you continue through the course. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on something completely different, your mindset towards sleep. It has much more of an effect on your sleep than you probably think. Action steps. Fully reassess your sleep schedule. Is it the best it could be? Are there any positive changes that can be made by shifting it? If there are, follow the 3-step process to start shifting it. A step further. In a journal, plan out your sleep schedule shift. Give yourself new wake-up times each day, very gradually advancing or delaying as appropriate. Do this too with your Zeitgebers.